How can we avoid having second thoughts after a conversation? Hello and welcome to Communication Psychology. My name is Gerhard. I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany, located here for many years in Moldova, Southeastern Europe. I'm specialized in international, intercultural, and multilanguage context. We all know what second thoughts are, right? After any conversation, we feel we could have said something differently, or we could have omitted something. So in hindsight, we are all more aware of the nuances than in the moment. That's natural. Now, second thoughts means we were not optimally prepared. There is no perfect preparation for any conversation. And learning a script is often even worse because conversations typically are dynamic. And you don't share a script with your partner before making a telephone call. So the other person is most likely not to stick to your script. He or she may have another script. And you having a script makes you really vulnerable because the other person going off script, you don't know what to do. You are focused, fixated on your own script. If you start practicing more spontaneous and improvisational speech, then you have much more options for reacting in that situation. Another type of preparation, however, would be to assemble the right team to go into this conversation. In the last lesson, we introduced the notion of the inner team, according to Hamburg University professor Friedemann, Schulz von Thun. The idea is everybody of us has an inner team, the voices or parts inside of our personality that come to the front in different situations. So when we are playing with a toddler, with our children, then we have another part of ourselves coming to the contact line than if we are interacting with the police or colleagues at work. So we have a variety of inner team members, and they are more or less capable of handling different situations for us. Let's step a bit back and imagine real team members. For example, imagine the following situations and tell me if you agree that you would be much better off if you had at least one person assisting you in that situation. For example, buying a used car. Wouldn't it be much better to have a trusted, experienced car mechanic at your side? Or buying a new house and having a legal expert, maybe a building and construction expert, and maybe an insurance person, different people around you helping you navigating through the buying process, or when you are stopped by the police, traffic police. Maybe a lawyer in traffic law would be very handy, or if the fiscal authorities call you, maybe you need a fiscal lawyer. In some situations, you maybe need a bodyguard. So you are in a foreign country, you walk through a rough neighborhood. It looks somehow threatening. It would be good to have a well-armed or physically capable bodyguard that can defend you in such a situation, or even an interpreter. So you are lost in the jungle, and there's a tribe of people with spears, or maybe even with curare arrows or something. And how do you communicate with them? So if you really think about this, in most situations in life, you would have profited if there was a more experienced person at your side. During adolescence or in childhood, many situations would have turned out much better if there was an experienced person besides you and guided you. Everybody's pressuring you doing something stupid. But if you had an older friend or relative, they would have told you that, well, those peers are making a lot of pressure to start smoking, drinking, doing drugs, but you don't depend on them. So you can you profit from somebody who has a different experience already. Now, this idea is clear. So there is an advantage of being present as a team. Now, in most situations, we don't have somebody at our side. So we need to assemble this team inside our parts. What do we have? I give you a concrete example. You're making a presentation at your work or at a conference, public conference. And so you bring to that conference your inner team of maybe the inner university professor is very good in knowing the theory, the facts. Then you bring maybe a good explainer, like a good pedagogue. So here it's very handy in explaining complex situations, facts. And maybe you bring an entertainer or a clown. So you spice up your presentation with jokes and so on. So that's maybe your inner team. It looks quite good. So with this combination, you can make good presentations. But during this presentation, somebody stands up and says, well, you're really wasting our time here because all this information you are presenting us is quite common knowledge. So why are we sitting here? Now, in this situation, you realize maybe I'm lacking a bodyguard, somebody to protect the speaker from attacks, verbal attack. Because the university professor is quite slow in reacting to such an unforeseen situation. And then after some too long seconds, the university professor inside of you makes you justify your presentation and gives even more complicated theories and facts why no, it's really innovative what you're presenting. The explainer in you maybe tries to boil it down to the essentials and give more examples and so on. And the clown maybe cracks a misplaced joke that backfires. So the team you initially brought to the presentation is not capable of handling the situation optimally. So what could a bodyguard, an inner bodyguard in this situation have done? For example, you could say, well, I understand that you're conscious of the time we are spending here. You're right. You're right. Much of what I present here is common knowledge. So please stand up and summarize the common knowledge I already presented. What's for you common knowledge? And then maybe I may add what I think it's new to this audience. Something like this. And first, the bodyguard would have reacted immediately, like a real bodyguard, so do something to protect. The other three maybe would have lost time being confused. And he puts the attacker on the spot. So now the attacker needs to stand up and summarize what he thinks is already common knowledge, which puts the other person in a bit unpleasant position, and that gives you time. So the bodyguard bought time for the other three team members. So now, while the attacker is summarizing what he or she thinks is all, the other ones, the university professor, the explainer clown, they can prepare already what to answer and then add something new. Now, this is just an example. And this can happen in many different situations too, where you need a quick reaction, but the inner team is not ready to handle this. Now, what do you think about this? Homework, think about a complicated situation you may be facing and make a list of inner team members you would need to handle such a situation. And those inner team members could represent also qualities you need in that conversation, like quick reactions or strength or empathy. And if that's difficult for you, to imagine inner team members. I admit that this sounds a bit strange. Then start by making a list of real people. It could be certain functions, certain professions, like a lawyer, a policeman, a psychologist, or it could be people you know, like a grandparent, a father, a friend, a famous person that represents the quality you need to be successful in this situation. So I hope this is inspiring to you. Please come back with questions and comments. And if you and your team want to invite me to give a 60-minute free masterclass on communication psychology, online of course, then please contact me on LinkedIn or on here on the website. You can find the email address. Bye-bye.